Welcome back to another episode of the Packers She Said podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Maggie Loney, joined as always by Perry Goldstein, breaking down week 5. Somehow we have already made it to week 5 of the NFL season. It is going by way too quickly. But this week the Packers travel to Las Vegas to play the 1-3 Raiders on Monday Night Football. So one extra day of rest and prep after a long week after a Thursday night game. So Perry, how you doing?
I'm good. It feels like it's been a while since the Lions game. I hope everyone's just forgotten about it. I also appreciate that the Packers didn't even have the worst loss of the weekend. Other teams got blown out worse. And now they got a mini bye, which this team desperately needed. And I think we'll still go through the injury report because it's still quite long. But I hope that they're feeling rested and ready to go kick some butt. This is the perfect get right game for this team.
It is, and we'll talk about all of the reasons why, but you mentioned it, the injury report, some good news, some not so good news. And again, caveat here is that the Packers have one extra day, so we'll see if that makes a difference for anyone. Jair, back practicing in a limited capacity, which is very exciting. Devondre Campbell still not practicing, likely out for the game. Yeah. Rudy Ford, a new injury, an oblique injury. He did not participate in practice as of Thursday. Elton Jenkins back in a limited capacity, which is very exciting. Aaron Jones, of course, limited. Luke Musgrave cleared concussion protocol, so he is back at practice. Beat up offensive line, John Runyon did not practice. Limited. Eric Stokes back practicing, which is very exciting, finally.
That's the first time that I've seen him on this report, which is a good thing because it means he's off pup.
Yep, so he's got his 3-week window now, back in action hopefully very soon. And then Christian Watson limited as well, but should be all good to go to play on Monday.
Yeah, and it sounds like Zach Tom will be fine. So getting Elton back and a fully healthy Zach Tom should hopefully be a nice remedy for this offensive line because they need it.
Assuming that you don't lose John Runyon Jr. then, because you might just be swapping Royce Newman onto the other side of the line.
Yeah, but I still feel a hell of a lot better with Elton back, regardless.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's flip it then. Look at the Raiders. Shorter injury report, but some pretty significant names on here, of course. Jimmy Garoppolo, the big one, still in concussion protocol. Could be Aiden O'Connell, their rookie draft pick, starting or making his second start. Devontae Adams, of course, the biggest name on here. He did not practice on Thursday with the shoulder injury. So really unclear. You know, he said he toughed it out and played through last week, and it was miserable and it hurt really bad. So I don't know if he'll do the same thing on Monday.
Injury he has? I don't know. That dude is tough. If he's not playing, he must really be hurt. I think as Packer fans, we've all seen him battle through some stuff, but it would be a real big bummer to not have him play because this is the first time the two teams are meeting since he left.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it, but he basically is their offense at this point.
No, so he literally is their offense. Yeah.
And then should play, but Max Crosby, the other significant name on here with a knee injury, he's been limited in practice. So again, we'll see, but those are probably the 3 big ones right now for the Raiders. So why don't we go ahead then and kick things off talking about the Packers offense and what they need to do to be successful about this Raiders defense that is not great.
Not great. Definitely not great. Look, you need 2 things in this game. You need a pass rush plan for Max Crosby, and you need a balanced offense. I think, and we talked about it just now with offensive line, I think with Elton back, with a healthy Zach Tom, you obviously are going to have Rashid and Josh Myers in their respective positions, even if right guard is kind of a question mark. I think all you need to do, you can still mitigate Max Crosby to the best of your abilities because they don't have anybody else, right? Chandler Jones just got cut or released rather. Same difference really. And that was your 1-2 punch, on the pass rush standpoint. And then the rest of them, they shouldn't strike fear into your heart. So if you can do that, I think they don't have a very good secondary, right? You can target, you can throw the ball, but you still need to have a balanced offense. And again, I think, like we said at the top of the show, this is such a good get right game for this run offense. It's a great get right game for the run defense too. We'll get to that. But like, if you cannot run the ball against this Raiders defense, then you can't run the ball, right? Like, this is not a good Raiders defense. You said it. And Max Crosby is their best weapon, and he's a pass rusher, right? So you want Jordan Love to stay upright. It's going to be good for all levels. And I think Matt LaFleur can probably run anything he wants against this defense. So I'm just looking for balance, some better yards on the ground, and for Jordan Love to just like play a clean game.
Yeah. And I mean, this defense is not performing well. You already said it. Through 4 games, they have 1 turnover. That's all their defense has forced. 4 games. It's 1 interception by safety Trayvon Merrick. Just not getting a lot of passes deflected. Just not. I mean, Max Crosby's the guy. We talked about it, right? He's got 4 sacks. You obviously need to know where he is. Rasheed Walker's going to have his hands full, but he did last week against Aiden Hutchinson. Like, it's not going to get easier. You're projected to be a starting left tackle in the NFL. Like, this is where you cut your teeth, and this is unfortunately a really tough stretch to do it, but
I actually think if the interior can hold up a little bit better, that helps your tackles, right?
Absolutely,
because if the interior isn't pushing Jordan Love back like literally 10 yards, then Rasheed can set an edge and keep Love in the pocket, and it'll be okay. That's what I like. You need a plan for a Max Crosby. That's a guy that you like. As a defensive coordinator, that's who you plan around. But the good news is, unlike the Lions, who have players at all different levels on the defense, right, you don't really have to plan for too much more on this defense.
Yeah, so you talked about it a little bit, but obviously the Packers need to get a run game going. It's just been atrocious, abysmal. We still haven't necessarily figured out any rhyme or reason as to why Aaron Jones wasn't touching the ball as frequently as he should be against the Lions.
He was on a pitch count.
But in the third quarter is when he gets his first touch.
So I've thought about this a lot, actually.
Okay.
And here's my thought process. So you go into that game, look, I'm not advocating for Aaron Jones not getting the ball. Okay, I'm not advocating for this. I want him to get the ball all the time. But you basically had 3 and outs, so 9 plays before it was already 24-3, right? In the Lions game. So all of a sudden, you call 9 plays. None of them were runs. One of them should have been. But you're already down 24-3. So you already know that you are playing catch up and you have to throw the ball, right? In that scenario, you don't get to use the run game. You don't get to be balanced. And then all of a sudden you're getting blown out and your guy is hurt and he's already on a pitch count. So at that point, it's like, what actually is even the point in playing Aaron Jones, right? You might as well not aggravate I'm not sure that this is like the thought process, but in my head, I'm like, why aggravate the hamstring? He was already not going to play a ton of snaps. Like, what's the difference here, right?
I get it.
I'm not saying it was right, but just like thinking it through, I'm like, well, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can rationalize the decision, but I think we talked about it after the Lions game too. Then the problems is the offense became so one-dimensional.
Oh, 100%.
The Lions didn't have to worry about the run. And at least if Aaron Jones is on the field, you have to account for the run.
I agree with you. Even here's that's a good point, because even if you're like, all right, we're down bad, but we have to throw the ball, but at least to add another layer to this, maybe it just put Aaron Jones out as a decoy, right? He doesn't need to get the ball.
Still threaten the receiving game.
Yeah, he doesn't need to get blown. I mean, he got blown up in like his second touch, right? Like, we don't need to do that. But at least you're right. Have him out there as a way to like test the defense, because they do have to respect it when he's on the field. But it sounds like he's full go in this game. He's not even on the injury report anymore.
Yeah. And then you've got Jordan Love, obviously had his, I don't know, it's kind of hard to call it his worst performance. He threw 2 picks. It was the first 2-pick game of his short career. The first time all season the Packers offense has given up 2 turnovers. But, we talked about in the Lions recap, one of those was not necessarily his fault. That was kind of being on a different page with your receiver. So I think honestly, as long as he's able to protect the football, like we said, if he has a cleaner pocket to work from, which he very much should against this Raiders front, I don't want to say that this should be an easy game for the Packers because nothing in the NFL ever comes easy, but if this doesn't ignite your offense, there's a problem with the
Right.
offense because
Yeah.
your players are all healthy. We're going to see more Christian Watson. He shouldn't be on a snap count either. You're getting Luke Musgrave back from the concussion protocol. He's full go. It's everything you want. Like, this is a very good matchup basically at every level for this Packers offense.
I agree. I think this is being a game where Jordan Love's going to get to do, I don't want to say whatever he wants to do, but it shouldn't be where he has all this pressure in his face and he has to make quick decisions. They're having to call different things so that we can get the ball out quickly. Like, it's not going to be that game. And again, I want to give the Lions their flowers. Like, we did it, right? Like, they're just, I think, a very good football team, and they're showing that. But this is a 1-3 Raiders team for a reason. And they've lost to, like, not great teams either. So I think this
is win the Broncos by 1 point. Like,
yeah, right. Exactly. So I think this is a game that is, again, like last week was a bit of a litmus test. Like, this should be a game that shows you in the locker room and the league that we are a good football team because we beat bad teams, which is what good football teams should do, is beat bad teams. And I think they need this game, right? Get the win, go into the bye above 500, get even more healthy, and just get your shit together. I watched a decent amount of film breakdown of Jordan Love after the Lions game just because I was honestly genuinely curious about, was it a holistic offense problem? Was it an offensive line problem? Was Jordan the problem? Like, there were a lot of questions after that game. And again, I'm not a film person, so I turned to the experts. And it kind of felt like it was everything, but it actually was a lot less Jordan than I initially thought, at least in the first half. He did, I think the most interesting thing, and I'm going to credit JT O'Sullivan because it was his film breakdown that really like showed me this, but I found it very interesting. Like, he turned down some easy completions, likely because, look, he has what? This is going to be his 5th start under his belt, 6th start if you include the Chiefs game. The game's probably still fast for him. It has not slowed down yet. And I think that's probably, and the Lions game was even fast, like, for anybody, right? The Lions were just playing really fast, aggressive, athletic football. And I think, to me, it seemed like the game hadn't slowed down in that moment, and he was just missing some easy checkdowns. And I don't think that that's going to be something that he does again. I think that was like a lot of good teaching tape, and you just take the completions where they come. Don't wait for the bigger play. Now, we saw too, he can complete the big plays, which is great. Like, the deep ball was just something that hadn't really clicked yet. So good. And he settled in. You could tell he settled in the second half, just like a little bit too late to win. But I think, like I said, it's a good get right, like, take what the defense is giving you kind of game, because the Raiders defense should give him some pretty easy completions. And especially if Matt LaFleur goes back to some of his like Matt LaFleur fundamentals, you know, he's going to scheme guys open in this game, and it shouldn't be so, the offense shouldn't look so hard.
And I think, you know, we talked about the Lions game being the first time we'll see a lot of these players together on offense. But again, pitch counts, really banged up O-line. Like, it was not the complete offense. This is probably the best look we'll see, unfortunately, obviously without David Bakhtiari for likely the season. You're hoping Elton Jenkins is back. If he's not, should be after the bye. But even with the banged up O-line, this is the first time you'll have like a really good look at your offensive core with Christian Watson healthy, with Aaron Jones healthy. Like, assuming things don't go sideways, which they shouldn't, this is a really good glimpse at what your offense can be at full strength for the first time all season. And I think that's exciting too, because I think there's probably a little bit of like Aaron Rodgers in Jordan, where he's like, hey, we're down 21 points. I have to ignore the check down and go for the big play. And that's admirable from a young quarterback who has seemingly put the team on his back in multiple moments in multiple games already. But with this Raiders defense, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to just run, like you said, the Matt LaFleur bread and butter offense. And now that he's got every player at his disposal, that's going to be really cool to see how they look together.
Yeah. What I'd really love to see in this game is just the offense moving the chains.
Yes.
Steady drives, you know, first downs, good third down conversions, but like let's get some first downs on the early downs. You know what I mean? Just like steady, balanced offense, long offensive drives, right? Like that is something I don't like. We've seen some really good moments from this offense, and they have driven the length of the field. I mean, they won the Saints game, right, because of like I think it was an 80-yard drive, but not as often and not as rhythmically and not as consistently. And I think this is just such a good game to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Let's flip it then and talk about the defensive side of the ball, because just like the Packers are having trouble running the ball, the Raiders also have not had a 100-yard rushing game yet this season. Josh Jacobs, the only workhorse in the backfield, the only one getting touches, 62 attempts for only 169 yards, something like that. He's
That's
averaging like
crazy.
2.9 yards a carry. Yeah, it is just
that's
really
abysmal.
bad run game.
That's a superstar who's like trying to get paid.
Yeah. I think he's like second or third on their team in reception. So he's making a dent in the receiving game as well, but just that run game just not getting going. Jimmy Garoppolo, second on the team in rushing yards, and I think he has like 19. So just really, really not a backfield by committee. It's only Josh Jacobs, and he is just getting stymied.
Okay. Like I said, I think I said this before we started recording, but like if the Packers run defense cannot get right against the 28th running offense in the league, like blow it up. Just tear it down and rebuild it, because yeah, I mean, look, I actually credit Josh Jacobs. I think he's a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, he's part of the passing game. He's a threat out of the backfield. But like, if you take the name out of it and you're like, okay, the running back for this team that the Packers are going to play is averaging 2.9 yards a carry. I do not want to see 5, 6, 7-yard runs on first down. I do not want to see broken tackle. Like, this is a game where I hope the Packers defense, especially that front, goes in with their hair on fire and like gets off blocks and closes gaps and does not do what we've been seeing. Because if you can't stop the run against this team, I mean, you said it earlier, it is not getting easier. It is only going to get more difficult. And like, there has to be a line somewhere. Especially because, I mean, we don't know who's going to be playing for them in the quarterback position. Like, if you get an Aiden O'Connell in there, they're going to try at least, I think, to lean on the run. Because like the last thing you want to do if you're Josh McDaniels is have to put the ball in your hands of Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, and I mean this Raiders offense is just generous with the football. 3 turnovers in their last 3 games, all losses, obviously. Jimmy Garoppolo through 3 games, 6 picks already. Aiden O'Connell, unfortunately, his first start, 1 pick, no touchdowns. I think he threw for like 230 yards. Just this is exactly the offense that we talked about it. This is a Raiders defense that you get right against on offense. This is a Raiders offense that you have to get right against on defense. And obviously the caveat here is Davante Adams. He's going to get his 100 yards, probably, whoever's lining up against him. If he's playing, like, he is a Hall of Famer. He's an all-pro. He's Davante Adams. We've seen him do that repeatedly in green and gold. So he's still doing it in black and silver. But if you mitigate him even like nominally,
yeah,
the rest of the offense, or the rest of the Raiders offense is
non-existent.
Yeah.
I have a lot of comments about the Davante Adams thing. One is, I really hope he plays. Not because obviously from a Packers defensive standpoint, if he doesn't play, that's better. But I don't want that. I want Davante to play. Like, they haven't played against each other, and I've been waiting with my popcorn ready. It's popped. It's sitting fresh, hot, ready for the Jair versus Davante Adams showdown. Okay, I've been waiting for this since the schedule came out. Right, these are 2 players who went up against each other all off season when they were both on the same team, all practice, all years. They have never gone up against each other in a game. That is high quality football matchup that I will not miss. And I know they're both waiting for it because they both mentioned each other in the press conferences this week. Okay. it's also a really good test for this defense. Like this team, this Packers team they better walk out of Vegas with win. Let's just put that out there. They have to beat this team, or else they're not the team I think that we think that they are. And I don't say that, like, let me just back up for a second. We've said wins and losses this season don't matter. No, this is a game you need to win. Like this is a game you need to win. But if you can control Devontae, you're not going to stop him. You said it. He's going to get his yards. Like if he comes out of this game within 100 yards, you're like, okay, that's just Devontae Adams. But if you can control Devontae, if you can somehow bracket him or stymie him in a way and then handle the rest of this offense, you're going to win this game. Devontae Adams has produced with every quarterback under the sun, from Aiden O'Connell and Brett Hundley. You stole words out of my mouth. Brett Hundley to Jimmy G to Aaron Rodgers. Like this man produces with anyone. He is one of one. But it's going to be really good for this defense to go up against a guy who is that talented and who knows you. Devontae Adams knows this defense's weaknesses in and out. He has been in that locker room, and guys haven't changed all that much, at least not the secondary. So I think it's just a really, 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 really important test for them. That being said, you mentioned Aiden O'Connell, and I do want to talk about a game that they just lost against the Chargers, where poor man got sacked 6 times by Khalil Mack, who, if Packers fans are listening, remember, Khalil Mack did like nothing when he was on the Bears. I think he had like 6 sacks in like a season. He just had 6 sacks in one game. So we're talking about this is a get-right game. This is a pass rush get-right game. Rashawn Gary will hopefully be on less of a snap count too. He's going to play more. I want all these guys getting after this quarterback. This is a not good Raiders offensive line. You should be rattling this rookie quarterback to his core. Even Jimmy G. Like, Jimmy G is not that hard to take down. It's just get after it. Because, again, if you get after it, if you are the better side and you're winning the line of scrimmage, which we didn't see against the Lions, then you also don't get Devontae Adams the ball. And then everybody wins.
That's what Matt LaFleur said after the Lions game. You know, he's like, we got whooped on both sides of the line. And if you control the line, you control the game. We obviously saw that against Detroit. And the Packers have the better line on both sides of the ball. This is a game that they need to dominate. And I like your point about Devontae, because we talk about, like, this season is just a measuring stick. Like, you're trying to assess your quarterback, you're trying to assess your offense, you're trying to assess your defense and the pieces that you have, because they're expensive, and your coordinator. Like, wins and losses aren't that important. How you assess this team is important. But you don't want this team to make the playoffs with a bunch of layups and then go up there and get their shit rocked by, like, really good football teams. Like, you're playing the Broncos after the bye. This is a very winnable stretch of games. It's the Broncos, then the Vikings at home, and then the Rams at home. There's just a stretch to go 4-0. And I'm not saying, like, it's obviously their tougher stretches are coming. They've got Detroit on Thanksgiving. They've got the Chiefs back to back. Like, it gets hard, but you need to set yourself up and build confidence and get acclimated into this offense for those games. Because if you start skidding now, it's going to be a long season, and it's really hard to assess your players when morale is down and they don't trust each other. And you just don't want them
I don't think morale is going to get down if they lose, but I agree with you. And young teams need to learn how to win.
Yeah.
Right? Like, one thing that Aaron Rodgers always brought to that locker room was a winning mentality. When you play on a team with Aaron Rodgers, you win. And everybody learns that that's the expectation. And now you don't have that guy anymore. And that's fine for all the reasons we've discussed. But I think the one void that you want to ensure you fill as a head coach is the expectation in this locker room is that we win football games. And there are a lot of guys on this team who were not on the Aaron Rodgers team, right? Who don't have that. And so you need to make sure that that carries over. Now, I think in all of the interviews that I've listened to from Jordan Love, I think he has that mentality. He knows that they're a good football team. And I think in the locker room, they believe that they're a good football team. We've heard it all offseason. But it's very different to believe in yourself than to learn, like, mid-season how to win football games. And I think that they've shown that they can, right? Like, they've come back from a 17-0 deficit already this season. It's week 5. but consistently stacking wins is another thing you need to learn how to do. And you said it. It's the Broncos, it's Minnesota, who is looking bad. That's another division game. Like, there are games that you can now stack success against. And this is the start of that.
Yeah. On Pack-A-Day, I talked about this a little bit with Andrew and Kyle, and Andrew had a really good point. And he just kind of said, through 4 games, the Packers right now are operating almost exactly how you'd expect them to. Like, they beat a bad football team in the Bears. Falcons game was fluky. They should have won. Saints game probably should have lost, but they rallied, which was really impressive. Lions game, they were beat by a better team. So to be at 2-2 and be kind of like middle of the pack in points for, points against, third downs, like, this feels exactly where you would expect this young football team to be. But now is the time that you get to, kick it up a notch against some teams and really see what you've got. Your offense is getting healthier. We already talked about it. Really good litmus test for your defense. Like, this has to be, it's prime time again. Jordan Love gets a chance to go out there in the national spotlight and say, hey, Thursday wasn't our best showing, but we look really good under the lights in Vegas.
Yep. Let me show you who we really are. I love I love the idea of like kicking it up a notch, because that's exactly what it feels like this team needs to do after that Lions game, right? It's like, whew, okay, we got our asses beat round 1. Now we're in the ring again, round 2, under the lights. We need a knockout.
So I want your thoughts on this, because, dope sheet, things I love. This is just really fluky and weird, right? But the Packers, obviously, their first ever matchup against the Raiders was Super Bowl II. Packers won that. Raiders go on a 5-game win streak in the regular season. They've only ever played 8 times since then. The Packers have won all 8 matchups, so they're on an 8-game winning streak. And in each of their last 8 wins, they've scored at least 28 points. And in their last 5 games, they've scored at least 30 points against the Raiders. So they're on an 8-game win streak, scoring 28 or more points in all of those games.
Huh.
It's kind of wild.
A very fun fact. One of my favorite games, actually, I think it was just a noon, 1 p.m. Eastern time game, but it was 2019 season, and Aaron Rodgers had his first perfect passer rating game against the Raiders. That's one of my favorite games. I was in Italy with my sister, so it's like a very vivid memory of us staying up late to watch it. But yeah, you're right, some good Raiders memories. So do we think, is your question, do we think the Packers keep that streak alive?
I say absolutely, and I think they put up more than 28 points.
Hell yeah. Okay. I would like to see the first 30 burger. Oh, no, sorry. They beat the Bears 38-20. Yeah.
Let's get a 40 burger.
Oh my God. That'd be fun. No, lower expectations. So are we wrapping with our score predictions now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I picked the Packers to lose to the Lions. I picked it to be closer. But I'm gonna go 35-21 Packers.
Okay.
I'm gonna even throw out there that the last 7 that the Raiders get is garbage time.
Okay.
I want +2 turnover differential for this team.
All right. I'm going to say 31-14. And I'm going to say the defense has 3 turnovers and the Packers on offense don't turn the ball over once.
Yeah. I do see the Packers playing a clean game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
You have every reason. The literal only thing in this game is that you're away.
Yeah.
That's it.
But I don't think there's gonna be home field advantage in Vegas. There are a ton of Packer fans I know currently on planes to Vegas. It's gonna be a really fun atmosphere. If you're going to the game, have a blast.
Speaking of, I really want to go to that stadium. Looks sick. Looks like a spaceship. Okay, so we're both picking wins. We both agree that this is a perfect get-right game for this team going into the bye. We both can't wait to see Devontae v. Jair.
Yeah. Carlson brothers on special teams.
Yeah, the Carlson brothers. We didn't even mention that. Yeah, Anders had a very fun quote about this game, about how they're very competitive with one another and they might get into a fight.
They're both literally 100% on the season so far, so which is genetics or something, but both of them look really good, which was really fun.
The Carlson Bowl.
I mean, Daniel's an All-Pro. I didn't realize that he actually had earned an All-Pro nod, so
good for Daniel.
He's got some catching up to do. Remember when the Vikings had Daniel on their roster and then they let him go, and now he's an All-Pro kicker for the Raiders?
So Vikings.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
I think we covered it. I'm very much looking forward to this game. I just want this team to go out and show who they are, right? Like, what are you made of, and how do you bounce back?
Yeah, and I hate to say that we talked about it against the Lions, because we did. You know, we talk about sometimes, like, if you can't get up for games like this, like it was Thursday night, division rival, prime time. You were also on a short week and you were really banged up. That should put a worse taste in your mouth that you lost that game. So if this game starts flat, that's what I don't want to see. I just want to see them come out. Like you said, the defense needs to have their hair on fire. The offense needs to string some drives together. I want to see it look easy, I think.
Yes. Yep. Easier.
Yeah. At least easier.
Easier. Please.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it for our Week 5 preview. Packers against the Raiders in Las Vegas. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at PWSS Podcast. You can find Perry on Twitter at Perry_Goldstein. You can find me on Twitter at Maggie J. Loney. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you don't already. That's also Pax What She Said. You'll get access to all the episodes probably like a day early before they drop on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. And if you are listening to the audio version, please make sure to download the show, because that really helps us out as well. But thank you, of course, as always, for listening to the show. And go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.